Okay, let's talk a little bit about structs versus classes. You may notice that their syntax and their use may seem really similar, even the way we initialize them. So what exactly is the difference between a struct and a class? So let's step back a little bit and remember that structs are like blueprints, and classes are like robots. So to demonstrate, in line 17, we create a new storybook named Yellow Book. And in the Yellow Book, we initialize it with the title Alice in Wonderland, and the author, Carol, with the year 1865. So if we make another storybook, let's say Red Book, and we set it equal to Yellow Book, then we set the Red Book title to something else. Let's say it's now Lord of the Flies. So if we access the redbook.title, if we run the playground, the title of the red book will now be Lord of the Flies. And if we access the yellow book title, it will still be Alice in Wonderland. So even though we set the red book to the yellow book, we essentially made an entirely new book using the yellow book. So we ended up with two different books. Like the blueprint analogy, so it's almost like we 3D printed two new objects using the blueprint. Okay, so those are structs. What about classes? So when it comes to classes, it's a little bit different. So let's do the same thing. Let's create a new instance of this class named Storyteller. Then we will set it equal to the narrator. So if this was a struct, Storyteller would become a completely new object copied from the narrator, and they would be two different entities. But let's see what we do here. So let's access storyteller.read. So storyteller.read will essentially add one book read to our books read variable. So once we do storyteller.read, let's check the storyteller.books read. And if we play our playground, the books read will be 11. So now if we check our narrator, the books read should be 10. But it's actually 11. But why is that? We didn't do anything to the narrator. That's because Storyteller didn't create a new instance using the reading robot. Instead, it created a reference to the original narrator. So structs create copies, but classes create references. So that is the first difference between structs and classes. And the reason we compare classes to robots is that robots can connect over the internet, much like classes can reference each other. Another difference between the two is that classes have inheritance. What do I mean by this? So for example, if we create a new class named Baby Robot, and we give it the ability to dance. So when it dances, it's going to say, I'm dancing. Okay. So right now, if we go to the bottom here, so let's test out this inheritance by creating a new robot called Fancy Robot. And we set it equal to the Baby Robot class. So we can do Fancy Robot.dance. The Fancy Robot will be able to dance. So inheritance comes in. If we make the Baby Robot inherit the capabilities of the Reading Robot, the Baby Robot class will be able to do anything that the Reading Robot can. And since we did that just now, if we go back down here and type in the Fancy Robot, you can see that now it can read and store the number of books that it read. So that's what we mean by inheritance. Once again, we compare classes to robots because robots can download software from other robots. And that's the difference between structs and classes.